Welcome guys to Remax episode 8. We're back this week with one new guest, a returning co-host, and our favorite guest so far, since he's been on the show for 3 times, Kane. So yeah, we'll start with the intros, then we'll go on with the topics. HuK, how has been your weekend at Dreamhack?
I got really sick, and then I chose to go out drinking and not sleep and stayed up really late, and I got more sick, and then I had to take a plane ride with all that pressure and nastiness. It was really bad. But Dreamhack itself was a really cool, fun tournament with a lot of really good players.
Nice. Did you do as well as you hoped you would do?
Yeah, desRow. I was very happy.
Well, I don't know, man. MC,
my goals were met.
MC,
Group stage 3, so happy.
I mean, MC and Hero.
I'm sure MC's happy too, man. I'm sure he's ecstatic about his performance.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Kane, how about your weekend? How did you enjoy Dreamhack?
It was fun. It's my first Dreamhack, so it was a lot of fun, and met up with a lot of, I guess, old friends. Not really old friends, but people that I've met before and haven't seen for a while. So it was nice.
How many European tournaments have you attended outside of Dreamhack?
Not many.
Man, my insanity needs to get on the ball, man.
I've been kind of traveling a lot, so
yeah,
I know. Yeah, not their fault.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. I'm not judging them. But yeah, for you, I didn't do the intros. For you guys that don't know Kane, Kane's a HuK player for My Insanity. He's Canadian. He went and lived in Taiwan, and he lived in Europe before, and now he's living in Europe again. And Rotterdam is a caster for WCS and A. He's a legend, or well, whatever that word is. And oh, it's so French sometimes.
It's a legion.
Legendary.
What is a legion?
Legendary.
Of the Roman Empire.
So anyway, Rotterdam has been around since Warcraft 3, and he casts and he plays Protoss and he streams sometimes when he's not too busy partying. How was your weekend, Kevin?
It was very similar to the one of Chris, actually. I felt really sick, so I went drinking, and then it was even worse. But other than that, it was okay. I actually decided to go to Vegas for 2 days, because the last few months have been really busy here. It's almost been like every day either Red Bull or WCS America, which it has been really fun, but at a certain point, it was just like nothing but work, and now it's only work ended, and I was just sitting in my room. I was like, I should really try to have some fun in my life. So I decided to go to Vegas, and that was a terrible decision. Then
financially, or?
Yeah, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Oh,
pretty much every single form of life. It was just a really bad decision. Yeah. But other than that, I came home and I watched most of the Dreamhack VODs that I didn't watch before. It was fun, you know. Life goes on, right, Desi?
Yeah, of course. Of course. And as always, I have a need to intro myself. Yeah, I've just been streaming a lot every day without missing a beat, and life is good. So we'll get on with the topics. Dreamhack Stockholm happened this weekend. It was Friday and Saturday, which was the biggest mindfuck for me, because I always thought, hey, today's Saturday. Wait, no, it's Friday. Super weird to run a tournament on Friday, Saturday. I know they ran CSGO starting Thursday, so they were probably trying to get done as much as they could within that period. So there was Dreamhack Stockholm, and there was a lot of good players. The best lineup of Dreamhack so far this year. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
There were a lot of Koreans.
Yeah. And so we'll start with just, the results. Not much interesting happening in the first group stage, as always. And in the second group stage, we had Hero and MC not make it out, Liquid Hero, by the way, not make it out to group stage 3. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the results that you guys thought were interesting, and then we'll jump into group stage 3 right after. Opening it up. So yeah, MC, where was MC? I'm missing. So Hero losing to Wellmu and Rhett. Kane, what did you think about that? Did you see the games? Because I know Rhett hasn't been at a lot of tournaments lately, so.
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to see the games, but one thing I can say is that Womu, from what I understand, his PvP has always been pretty sick. And Red's been practicing a lot more recently, and from our games on ladder, he's gotten pretty damn good. He definitely can take games off of really good players. such as myself. No, but no. I mean, he's a good player, and I think we might see a little bit of a resurgence from him.
Okay, nice. And so yeah, Wellmu beating Hero 2-0, and Red beating Hero 2-0, and Red beating Wellmu 2-0 as well. Rotterdam, did you see the games? What are your thoughts?
No, they didn't show any of those on the main stream. And if you like Dreamhack, there are so many games going on at once that even if you watch the tournament live and you have 2 monitors on, you're still going to miss a lot of games. But if you weren't watching the tournament live and you try to go over VODs, then it's literally like impossible to find some of the series that you're looking for. But I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of the conversation here, but I actually thought Red's performance at Dreamhack was really good. In the end, you can say like he still dropped out in group stage 3, but if you take a look at some of his results, like he aced his second group stage, and even in group stage number 2 he was so close to advancing, and in the end he basically went 1-on-1 in series against Mana. So it actually gave me a really good feeling, because I like Red a lot, to see that he played that well. Unfortunately it wasn't enough to go into top 16, but if you just look at the best of 3s that he won and the ones that he dropped, I think he can be very proud of himself, and I definitely think he was one of the foreigners that stood out for me, and it's nice to see Red playing well again.
What about you, HuK? You know, you've been with on a team with Red. You know he hasn't been doing as well as he used to. He's not as relevant as he used to. What do you think of his results?
Pleasantly surprised, I guess. Like Rotterdam said, he did better than anybody expected. Beating Hero, I think, is a really big accomplishment, even though I think Hero's playing worse than usual lately. I don't know. Red's always, like, he's always, since Brood War days, has been seen as one of these players that is naturally very skilled and talented, but doesn't always have the work ethic to back it up. But I think if he's in the right mindset and, like, you know, he has the right lifestyle, not even where he's, like, so much physically in super good shape or anything like that, but he's just happy as a person, and he's relaxed, and he doesn't have a lot of stress in his life, I think he'll play really well. And I know, personally, I think he just re-signed for another year with Liquid, so hopefully he can stay in that mindset, and if I think he can, then I think he'll do really well within the next year.
Okay. So yeah, good luck to Red for the next tournaments, and it was nice to see him knock out a Korean. You guys go foreigners. Not too many upsetting results. I mean, Todd losing to Lilbo and Solar. Lilbo is just like the better French player. like he's taken over the role of...
I think Todd is going to kill you for saying that.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm not necessarily going to disagree with you, but I also think you have to take into consideration that Todd has been really freaking busy over like the last 5-6 weeks. And you know, if you are a player, you can obviously, you know, make a weekend free once and cast a tournament. But for Todd over the last few months, it's safe to say that he has been casting more than he has been competing in tournaments. And now suddenly, like he just went to Stockholm, he went to America like 3 times in the last few months. And now he came back, and I think he barely had any time to actually practice for these games. So yes, now this time Lilbo did 4-0 him, but I think if you let Todd just practice for 1 month straight and he's not casting anything, I wouldn't necessarily say that Lilbo is a lot better than Todd.
Yeah. But Lilbo is like the guy with the Nanoware account on EU that's been doing really well, right?
I know he's good, but I don't think it's fair to, like, after, like, right on this period, maybe Lilbo is a little better, but 2 months ago I wouldn't really say that I think that Lilbo would have 4-0 Todd. But
okay, so it's too early to tell if Lilbo is better than Todd. We'll have to see for Todd to come back, and then we'll be able to judge. But then again, Todd is always super busy, so...
Yeah.
Moving on from that, Moral coming on top of Mini Razor in Group H in Classic Mini Razor.
Mini who?
Mini Razor.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, so Moral coming on top of Mini Razor. So, but it's an S instead of a Z, so that's why I say it differently. Alright, but anyway, so Mini Razor, you know, coming off top 16 WCS EU, Moral not doing too well, and then Moral losing the first series 2-1 and then winning 2-0. That's cool for Moral, and he's been streaming a lot lately. He's been commentating. I didn't personally see the games, but hopefully Moral keeps on a good streak of results. And
is this Morrow we're talking about?
Morrow,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, you thought I was saying Maru?
Mole. I kept hearing mole.
Mole trap.
I didn't know who it was.
Oh,
I thought
dear Lord.
I didn't see Morrow at the tournament period. Anyways,
Yeah.
so I was very.
And then HuK losing to 4GG like a noob, and then beating Sake and Agaham. How good is Sake these days? He finished last in his group.
The PvPs, I honestly just 3-gated him. The same build I did against Jim, twice in a row, basically. I did it against Sake and just won. But I did it against Jim and just won too. I just think it's a really strong build. I know Trap used it at Red Bull as well, and it's like becoming the most popular PvP build in Korea as well.
So it's just micro then.
It's just like a really strong build in every sense. It has no weakness really besides maybe like a double proxy gate against you.
But don't you think that like a 2-gate with a money, like 2-gate where you have double stalker and then you make Twilight, I think that is a little bit better than straight up 3-gates.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of variations coming in now. That plus they just do double gate and then they go into Nexus, and there's a lot of different possibilities. But the pressure gate, it's like when you go the pressure, it's like if you play against anybody that's greedy or they're doing anything unusual besides very standard stuff, it's like win, just free win, free win, free win. But overall, yeah, I think Suck is kind of slumping. I don't know what to say besides that player slump, and I think he's slumping. So.
Okay. All right.
I watched his games versus Agram as well, and they weren't too good to be honest.
Wait, Agram? It's Agaham.
Is it? I thought it was Agram. That's what someone told me at the tournament.
The thing is, he's
you're
Dutch.
ready, huh, Desert? You're like, this motherfucker didn't pronunciate this correctly.
Yeah. Go ahead, Roddy. Sorry.
No, I have no idea. I was like, he's Dutch, but I'm not even sure how to pronounce his name. I would say Achaem, but...
Oh, I see. Well, he's Asian, from the pictures I've seen.
I know that.
He's not bad, but Agram, or what is it? How do you, can you type it in chat or something?
It's Agaham.
Achaem.
I think he's like mid-GM, around there.
Yeah.
He must be a little better if he travels to Dreamhack.
He's on the same team as you, Thermal, and Jonah.
Yeah, I know those guys. I think he's a little better than mid-GM. I think you're selling him short. He's probably
I'm not
a guy...
sure.
I think he could easily be like top 40, top 30 of the server. Talking about Zocker, the way that the Germans work in general is... I'm not sure, so somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the EPS season just finished up. And most of the time, these German players, they practice a lot when EPS is going on, because that is still sort of, you know, the pot at the end of the rainbow for them, when they just compete against other Germans and they can walk away with 2,000-3,000. Yeah, they can walk away with 2,000-3,000 euro. And I believe that a season just finished up, so you know maybe Zoka is taking a small break. Overall, this hasn't really been his year. Like WCS has been like a disaster since the very get-go for soccer, not just this year, but even last year, I think. So. Maybe next year it will be different. I know that he's still pretty good, but I also know that right now this is not like the 100% fully dedicated Zocker. It's probably just playing a little bit of Starcraft. And it's what a lot of the Germans are doing right now. Even Hazops, when I was talking to him, said he's not practicing particularly much right now.
Okay. Moving on from that group, Group G, you know, Vibe and Zenster losing to 2 Korean Zergs. Not much to say about that.
Vibe actually, I talked to Lenok. It was really close between Vibe and Lenok. It was 2-1, and Lenok said he should have lost every single game. So.
Oh. Well, okay. Color me surprised then. Good job to Vibe, and nice try. And moving on to Group K, the Muslim. That's the really funny thing. I was watching Nanua cast the Muslim versus Starnan, right? And they were playing the losers match. So the Muslim lost to Hero 2-0, Starnan lost to Grubby 2-0, and then Grubby lose to Hero. So the Muslim beat Starnan 2-0, and then Naniwa wanted to cast, you know, the last series. Fucking turns out, Grubby's not in the channel, the Muslim doesn't invite any casters, they play a game, they lose electricity, no one has the fucking replay. Well, good job for not inviting a caster and not being able to do resume from replay. That's fucking karma in a nutshell. But yeah, and then
you take this very personally, huh? After last Dreamhack, you didn't get invited to a game. You're like ready to go on this issue.
Yeah, dude. Like at the end of the day, like you're like no. You get the money.
I agree. Okay. I agree to some degree, but
you're a diva too, HuK.
Yes, I am very much like for player rights. I don't even know how to word it because it's not like we're in slavery or anything. But like. It's really annoying if you play a game of Dreamhack, you lose, and you want to like start the next game immediately, and then the caster doesn't accept for like 5 minutes. and then you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna start the fucking game, because there's no reason why they shouldn't be accepting.
Yeah,
So-
but
I mean, like, I agree. They should, like, if someone says you need to invite us and they just fucking blatantly ignore them, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was playing against Sokka, and I lost or won, or something happened, or maybe it was someone else, and then I like went to invite the caster, and I had to invite like 3 times before he accepted, and I just wanted to start because I don't want to sit there, mass spamming invites before they accept. So
yeah, but yeah.
I mean, it really depends what
I mean,
what happened.
I think that is also pretty much only the case with Dreamhack because they have so many community casters. Obviously, there will be a small lack of communication sometimes between players and the casters. I think the less casters there are, the easier that should go in general, and there shouldn't really be any hiccups. But here, I guess you have like 12 different casters, so yes, every now and then there will be this one caster who just goes on a break or something. I understand that it's annoying, but I just think it's something that like Dreamhack, I don't know, maybe they can brief the casters better on or something like that. It's something that shouldn't really happen, but the game should always be streamed.
Yeah, I won't get, like, I just want it, I'll invite the caster, they don't accept, I'll just start the game. But, like, I definitely, I've been at Red Bull or ESL or whatever, and they're like, the biggest thing is when you get into lobby, and then they're like, okay, starting 10 seconds, players ready? You're like, yep, go. And then, like, 8 minutes later, they're like, okay, we're ready to go, are you ready? Yeah, okay, let's go. It's like a common occurrence, like, it's a running joke with me and some of the ESL staff who run the in-game lobbies, because they always say, okay, ready? And I'm like, okay, is this the real ready, or is this the players be ready in 10 minutes, we're going to actually be ready kind of thing?
Well, that's also a communication issue then, because, obviously...
I know there's like a lot of things going on in the background where, maybe casters all of a sudden have to go to the bathroom, or they got to run commercials, or they got to... There are things that happen that delay the stream is the point, and then it gets delayed, and that's understandable, but it's annoying as a player when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm ready, 10 minutes, and then you're like, the fuck's going on here?
Well, HuK, if it makes you sleep any better at night, I can promise you that I never took a bathroom break during any podcast ever.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank your bladder for me.
Yeah.
I will.
Alright, so moving on, but it's just, they didn't get a replay because they didn't invite casters. I found that funny. I had to point it out. And so, yeah, Kane losing to first. And, yeah.
But did you watch that game, desRow?
Yes, that Foxtrot game. Dude, you're like one of the only highlights of Dreamhack on Starcraft2highlights.com. That means it's a very cool highlight. And then the caster hyped it up. You had to find the probe. The probe got away. Fucking first made buildings, and then you had nothing to defend, and then you died. It's really unfortunate. How did you feel when you were playing that game?
I didn't think too much about it. I mean, when you have really close games like that, usually I'm not too happy because the game should have been cleaner, and it shouldn't have been as close. So when I play games like that, I tend to not look into it and say, oh, I should have won that because it was so close. I tend to look at like the early and mid game and say, what did I do wrong that made it so close? What could I have done to make it a cleaner game? So I wasn't like happy with the game, but I didn't read too much into it. Just finished and went on to the next one.
And I mean, obviously, if you're playing it, there's so many thoughts going through your head. You don't know if there's anything like hiding away in the corner or something. But when you watch the replay and you saw that the only 2 probes were actually in the main base, that must have been like a small ouch moment, no?
I actually never watched the replay. I saw the highlights and stuff like that, but I mean, that was a couple days after I played that game, so it didn't really affect me too much because I was already out and everything. If I'd watched it immediately after, I might have not been too happy with myself.
We were talking about this a little bit before the show went live, but I actually thought it was a shame that they were like on a different location when that game was being played, because I think even if you just have like a small audience watching that game live, I think you're gonna have one of the most epic moments ever. Because I was sitting at home like very relaxed last night, and I was like watching that game because I didn't see it before, and I didn't even see the highlight reel, so I didn't know what to expect. And I was literally like, "What? No, what?" Like just like making sounds by myself, like the neighbors probably think I'm having a seizure or something like that, Like I was like, that's crazy, and that would have been awesome to have that in front of a live audience. So I actually thought that was a small pity that, it's just not the same. Like, you don't really go crazy as a caster if there's nobody else to listen to, because then it's just like two guys shouting very loud behind the desk, and it's not the same when there is actually people in the house or not.
Yeah, you kind of build off their excitement as well.
You pull a QXC if there's an audience. But, no, but to go off of what Kane said, you would have been mad, or you would have been upset if you looked at it. HuK, what are your thoughts on that? Like, if you feel like you lost, like, a crazy game like that, you think it's worse to look at the replay? Because you'll be even more mad that you fucked it up?
Was this like when you lost and you were out for sure, or was this like
he watched it like 2 days later, but he said Kane says like, oh, if I watched it right after,
yeah,
I might
but
have...
that's what I mean. Was he out for sure when this game ended?
No.
That was game one, right?
Yeah, that was the first series, right?
It was. I think it was a decided series.
It was
the first game.
Oh, okay.
So he still has, like, if I was gonna watch anything, I would just look at, like he said, the early mid game, see if there was any mistakes or anything I could work on. But you're not really watching it for the pleasure of watching it at that point. You're just focusing on the next game. So I would never get to that point.
So you would never try to find like, oh, well, where are the probes? I can't believe it. You would just focus.
How is that gonna help you in the next game?
And just asking for our audience, man.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. I was okay. Moving on. So we had sort of lose to TLO. Sort of still trying to make a comeback after having a really good year in 2013. And that's basically it. Oh yeah, MC beating medalist, having a tournament of his life, and then losing to Space Marine. Space Marine took a map off Patience too, so you must really have a good PvP. Rotterdam, did you see any games?
No, I didn't see any games in the group, but I'm just smiling because I was thinking of that Swedish female tournament that medalist got mad over. What a joke! And now she's like in a group with 3 Protoss players. Did she rage quit any? It would have been really funny if Medalist would have gone ham on MC or something, like, you noob, no skilled player or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been sweet. Alright, so that wraps up group stage number 2. Group stage number 3, the fall of the foreigners. Few Koreans get knocked out, but mostly versus the Koreans. We'll start with Group A. HuK, you had a GSL group. Did you feel like you were in Korea during that time, or
fucking insane?
So
yeah, I should have beat Classic, and then I should have won one game against Linok, and then the other game I kind of fucked up, and I don't know, not much to say after that. Rip on.
So okay. So yeah, Suin Classic coming out on top, and actually the VODs of Naniwa and Sase casting are public. So if you want to go and look for Su versus Classic casted by Naniwa, Naniwa showed a lot of respect to their play and had a lot of in-depth things to say about Muta, PVZ, and how things were working in that series. And for me, it was a lot of fun to just watch them cast, or hear them cast, rather. And so Su beating Classic finishing second. Pole True first CLO. Pole coming on top versus True. True had so much hype, coming off Kespa, leaving Jin Air, trying to live the dream in Europe, and then, losing to First, and then beating First again. But yeah, just losing to First, is True overrated, Rotterdam?
I don't know. I don't think I'm in a position to say that. I personally don't feel that. I mean, I think he's really good. But he's not special to me in a way that, like, I think he's better than Su or something like that. But I think he's just a very good Korean Zerg, and I think we're about to find out in the next few months how good he truly is. Or maybe a little later than that, because there's not too much happening anymore in which he can shine. I think he's really good, but it's not like if I watch this playlist before the tournament starts, I think like, oh my god, True is here, yeah. No. He doesn't stand out for me yet. I do think he's very good though.
Damn it.
No X factor.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Kane since he's a Zerg, but I think a factor of True not performing, and Chris, maybe you can tell, you can agree on that, is it's not the same tournament format. He doesn't prepare for a match. It's like you play anyone that you have no idea how they're gonna play. So, what do you think? Were you listening?
Me? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I think like as long as you're a good player, you should still do okay at DreamHack. I don't think it's like a format thing. I just think, like Roddy said, he's not as good as some of the other Zergs that were at this tournament, like Life and Sue and Solar. Maybe even Slackstreet. I think maybe he's like on Jadong's level. So I don't know. I just don't think he's as good as some of the other Zergs.
Okay. So we had Moro. Moro taking out Golden. Golden is like his results are all over the place. You know, he does well in WCSCU, but then he gets trashed in like Dreamhack Moscow and Dreamhack Stockholm. And I mean, getting trashed. Moro is a good player, but you know, Golden's very inconsistent. Are you surprised that 4GG lost to Saskri, Rotterdam?
No, not really. That's just kind of one of those matchups where, if I would have to put my money on anything before they start, I would probably go with Saskri. But it would also not be a massive shock if 4GG wins. It's just like just a matchup between two good players. I don't think there is too much to look into that result.
Okay. So Group D, Grubby, Walmu versus Ryong, Jaedong. Good for Ryong that he came out of that.
I'm actually surprised Jaedong did as well as he did, just because lately he's shown more shaky results, I guess.
Yes.
But I'm really happy he did well at this tournament.
Yeah, but yeah, that's good for him. We'll see how far he did in the round of 16 very shortly. Mana beating Mana beating Yun, and so Yun not making it out of Group E, finishing last. Also, it's very weird. Thoughts, Rotterdam?
I was really torn on this group because I really like, I pretty much like all four of these guys, but when it's like a decided match between Mana and Red, like Red is one of my closest friends in gaming, but Mana is just such a friendly guy that you can never really cheer against him. And even though I know that like maybe 2013 hasn't really been a year of Mana, I think from 2010 to 2012, Mana was probably like the most consistent European. Even when I wouldn't say that he was the best European, because maybe, you know, like Stefano and Naniwa. I mean, okay, Stefano is like one on its own, and Naniwa is almost on its own. But other than those big two, Mana had so many top 4, top 2 runs, and he got so many second places. And then at a certain point, it finally stopped, which I think was only normal, because nobody can ever be that consistent. But now he's like really starting to pick it up again, and it does me well to see that Mana still has it, that he can still just perform in big tournaments like this. And I mean, making a round of 16 or a round of 8 in a current DreamHack is probably the same as like finishing top 4 in the DreamHack summer of 2012 or something, just because of the overwhelming amount of good Koreans that are coming these days. You know, like group stage number 2 and 3 used to be a walk in the park for guys like Mana, HuK and stuff, and now I think it's safe to say that if you make it to the top 16, that's an achievement on its own. But yeah, it's just a solid result again. Mana is just really solid. I know that he had a small down period in 2013, but I really love him. I think he's awesome, and I think it was a good result for him.
He's really scary on ladder as well. Like, he's for sure one of the Protosses that I'm always afraid to hit.
You know what I think, last thing I want to say about Mana?
Yes.
I think it's funny, when you watch Mana play, obviously you see that he's really good, but it doesn't feel to me like I'm watching a flawless Protoss. Like, he's definitely making a couple of obvious errors here and there, but he still performs so well and he's still able to compete, which really makes me wonder if he can get a couple of like unnecessary mistakes out of his play. I think he could be even better than he currently is. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Well, I mean, he didn't go to Korea for nothing. Like, he obviously had a talent, and he's been playing well. Like, I remember he was trading games with Hero, like in DreamHack Summer, and yeah, I think so. What about you, HuK?
I definitely agree. There's a lot of players that when I look at them, just especially from first person, where it's like a lot of their camera movement or mouse movement seems like really sloppily done. I don't know how to describe it really. I guess if I was a coach, I would look into it more and try to help them. But since they're like enemies or other competitors, I really don't give a shit, I guess, unless they're a friend.
Hey, what about me?
I don't know. I would have to watch you first person, but in general, I think your mechanics are lacking more than anything else. So.
Okay, go on.
So, I mean, there are definitely times where I feel like Mana lacks in that area. I remember watching him a year or two, and he had everything on one hotkey always. And I was like, I was like, if he could fix that, he would be such a better player. And even at that time, he was being really dominant. So I don't know. I don't know where he's at nowadays. I'd have to personally watch him, but there is definitely a lot of players that have very obvious things that they need to fix and they don't. But I'm not sure if Min is that person anymore. But if Roddy says he is, then I definitely believe. I don't watch as many games as Rotterdam does.
That's true.
Does he still hockey everything on one hockey? That would be like a big one.
No, I don't think it's just more that like he floats like a few hundred minerals more than you normally want in a certain phase in the game, or his production facilities are a little bit later than they could have been. It's just like a couple of unnecessary small mistakes, which makes it even more impressive to me that he often doesn't die to like certain pushes that people throw at him, because he didn't even like spend his money, all of his money in the way that I think he could have, and then he still hangs in there like a champ. And it's just like, wow, you know, you could have crushed this like with fucking ease if you would have actually done all the right things, you know. But
yeah, he's like, he probably plays a lot from field, and his build orders aren't so crisp, and then he just kind of makes it happen out of like good micro management or just good understanding from the game. But yeah,
he definitely has that.
I've definitely been there where I've had problems in my game, and someone just pointed it out, and then I was like, oh, this feels so much easier now. And then you play a game and you understand, and you're like, wow, I get it. It makes sense. So I don't know. There's just not enough coaches in StarCraft 2. Like, it's not. If there were coaches making like $60K a year or something from coaching StarCraft 2, then it would be like, okay, well, I would definitely look into doing that. But at this point, it's just not a worthwhile thing. So players are not.
And they also, I think a lot of foreign players are also too stubborn for that. Don't you agree?
That's true. There's certain things about your play, like I know personally myself, where like, man, I've been hotkeying my fucking Nexuses on 0 my whole career. And I've had so many people be like, that seems so wrong. You got to go across the whole keyboard just to chrono boost something twice. So there's definitely things that, like, you can change. You just have to like take 3 days of losing to fix it. But players are like, I can't fucking do it. Like, it's too annoying. I just won't. And then
don't you think it makes you more agile though?
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't fixed it because I don't think it would really help my gameplay at this point, just because I use every single hotkey from 1 to 0 anyways.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but then you're also the guy who changed Immortal from I to something else because you're a bitch.
I changed it to, I think, T. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more comfortable for me.
That logic. All right, moving on. Group F, MMA Life over Oz Daishi. Pretty straightforward. Oz definitely not on par with Life and MMA, in my opinions.
Back to that spite from not getting invited to a game, huh, desRow?
No, like, wait, dude, you lost twice to Life. Come on, man.
Okay.
All right.
You don't like Oz. We get it. It's okay.
Show me good results and I'll start to take interest.
Another shot. Keep going.
Oh, I'm just digging deeper at this point. Yoda, or Man, or Patch Turn, going last in the group, losing to Patience, and then
that's pretty surprising.
Losing to Lilbo.
Yeah. I totally agree with HuK there. Like, that actually really surprises me, because I casted Yoda playing in the Red Bull Battlegrounds online qualifier #1. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was a really stacked qualifier with a lot of good players. And for some reason, we started casting Yoda already in round 2. And from that point on, we just kind of followed him, because those games were almost always ready. So it kept the show going. And he was just fucking insane. Like, every single series that he played, he defeated so many good high-level Korean Zergs. And every round, like, he started playing someone who was even better. And he kind of thought, like, this is where Yoda's not going to cut it anymore. And he really blew me out of the water that day. Like, he played better than I saw him playing like 2 years, ever since he won IEM CBIT. And I really kind of hope that he was able to bank on that. But so he is still in WCS Europe, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
he's actually in a position that if he wins it, he ties Snoop in WCS points for Blizzard.
Okay.
In that qualifier, did Yoda play mostly Zergs, or was it Pro?
No, mostly Zergs. Yeah.
I know that from my experiences on Europe Ladder, Yoda's pretty damn good TVZ.
Yeah.
So I can't comment on TVT or TVP, but I know that his TVC is really good.
TVT, he was really good for. I mean, overall, he still had really good results since then. He's been on fire for like the last, basically ever since that qualifier. Because I remember talking about it on this show a month ago or so. But yeah, maybe it's just a matchup thing. He's not so strong TVP. I know he had really close games against Hero maybe 2 months ago or so as well. So maybe he's just bad TVP. That would make a lot of sense in a lot of ways.
Well, Lil Bo is pretty good too, man. Even though Rotterdam doesn't want to believe the French hype, but
No, I believe. I know that he's good, but I just think it's a little unfair to burn Todd to the ground after he's been like super busy for 2 months straight collecting air miles and custom money all around the world. And didn't really have time to practice.
Yeah, that's true. He's living the dream. And so Bunny coming out on top versus Patience and Lil Bo basically. His TVP is really good. You've played him at IEM. HuK, what are your thoughts on Bunny's TVP?
It's really good.
Yeah?
He actually played Hearthstone today and lost 4-1, I think, and I want to watch those VODs.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But Hearthstone has really good PvT, and Bunny I thought had good TVP, but maybe not. I think he's a really solid player. I know personally that he's dealing with a lot of mental issues right now, so that might have some effect on why he played bad today, but I don't know. Hopefully he pulls through, because I think he's like probably one of the top foreigners we have right now.
Yeah,
he's been playing very consistently for the last 2 months.
Yeah, and just to mention the results you were talking about, the tournament Bunny lost to Arston and is a tournament run by Base Trade. We're not going to cover it, but you can go look at the results here. And the final is going to be Arston versus Cass tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. CET. And they already played the third place match, so I guess grilling Rifkin paid off at some point. But yeah, go on with what you were saying. You just think he's not there mentally right now, but he's still very, very good.
I mean, I don't want to get into it too much of what is what, but I just know lately he hasn't been enjoying the game as much, I guess.
Oh.
So even though his results have been pretty good, he personally isn't having as much fun with it. So whenever that happens, it's harder to practice, and the practice that you do get in is not as beneficial as when you really like the game. So
do you think it's one of those things where, you know, like when your race is underpowered, and then you feel like everything's like you against the world, and then once it gets buffed, everything's okay?
I don't think that's it. I just think he personally isn't having fun with the game right now.
Alright, that was a joke, by the way. But
not funny.
Come on, man, don't leave me hanging. Alright, Group H. Space Marine, after beating MC, doesn't live up to the hype, and then Snoot finishes third in the group. Jackshi and Solar, pretty tough group. It's nice to see Solar, man. Well, we'll talk about him since he won the freaking tournament, but it was so nice to see Solar come out because he was supposed to come to Moscow, and he plays like so many online tournaments from EU and NA, so it was nice to finally see him, you know, play the people he beats online without the delay and stuff. And so that wraps up Group Stage 3. We're going to go into round of 16. We'll try to make it short. Just your favorite match in the round of 16 out of all those matches, those 8 matches. Your favorite match. HuK.
Let me look.
Alright, I'll go with myself personally. Jaedong versus Classic. I wish I could say it was a classic, but Jaedong's in WCS NA. So they don't play often, but it was a real close series, and I think that was the match Jaedong needed to confirm his spot at BlizzCon, so obviously you had to root for Jaedong, even as a Protoss. So, Rotterdam, what are your favorite match in the round of 16?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to be boring, but I agree. That was my favorite match. I didn't see too many of the other ones, actually. I know Sul vs. Ryong was pretty boring. I didn't really enjoy that one, but Jaedong Classic was really cool. You know, on Classic, I would like to hear like HuK stats or something, or Kane as well. Like, obviously Classic is very good. Like, the guy won a freaking GSL, so we shouldn't really doubt him. But I feel Classic is very good in certain phases of the game. You know, like the 0 to 12, 13 minute mark that you practice over and over again. And I feel that he's really good at that. But I feel as soon as the games become a little different and he has to play like a little out of the box on the fly, I really don't think that he is as good as like the Zest and stuff of this world. But that's my opinion. I don't know how the others feel about it.
Well, I don't think that anybody can really compete with Zest at this point. But no, I get what you're saying. I'm not too sure that I agree with it because I don't know. I watched him versus Sue. I actually watched it firsthand, like first person. And even in the mid and late game, like after 13 minutes or whatever, He seemed to be really good, but just made like a couple of errors that resulted in the loss. But I'd have to study more of his games and analyze them a little closer to see where exactly he is strong and where he lacks some skill, I guess you could say.
Like, I don't mean like the moment he goes up to 3 bases that he sucks or something, but like often games go into the 15-20 minute mark, but it's still relatively controlled, you know. There is like a very good scouting going on, nothing too crazy is happening, and I feel
you just mean like if anything wonky happens or it becomes not standard and it becomes like a feel game.
Yeah,
you're not used to that.
It could be that he still lacks the experience, even though he's been playing Protoss for a while, that there are still certain spaces in the game that he doesn't have the same amount of experience in as like people that have been playing Protoss for 2-3 years. But that's just how I feel, because Jaedong played good that series, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel that Jaedong played like the best series of his life or something. I more felt like one moment it was just classic. Like he builds up this very strong Protoss army, goes up to 3.5 bases very comfortably. You know, you give him time, he does his thing. But then those attacks, they almost make no sense. He just like threw away pretty much every single Colossus and Void Ray.
I remember I couldn't remember the games for a while, but it definitely felt like he was playing cocky, or he didn't know what the fuck was happening at some point. Because he had some pretty big advantages, and then it seemed like he kind of just derped a little bit. I don't know, maybe he just doesn't have like the killer instinct. When like it was like for me when I watched the games, as far as like what I could remember, is like the times he should have attacked, he didn't attack, and the times that he shouldn't have attacked, he was very aggressive and lost too much. So maybe he just has like a really bad feel for the game, and he's just a really strong mechanic player, has really good micro and macro, but he doesn't really have the killer instinct or like a really good feel like when he should be doing what. I don't know. I think Classic's better than me, so I can't really judge too harshly, but at the same time, that's my general thoughts on him.
Okay. Kane, your favorite series of the run of 16? Did you?
I actually didn't get a chance to watch a single series, unfortunately.
I thought you just said you watched Classic vs. Jaedong first time.
I never said that.
Oh, you said Sue. That's right. My bad.
Yes.
Welcome. You were like at the venue, but there weren't any like.
No, it was Saturday morning.
Oh.
He was
that they played it, and Friday night was pretty good. So.
No. Okay, so we're gonna move on with round of 8. Your favorite match? Actually, HuK, you didn't comment. Your favorite match, round of 16?
I didn't watch hardly any besides I think just Classic Jaedong, so I guess that one. But I was cheering against Jaedong, to be honest, because I'm still in the running for WCS points, even though I have a 2% chance. But Jaedong was within graphs until he won that, and then he's like. It's another obstacle I can't climb even if I win WCS America now, so rip. But I'm happy he did well.
Alright. And round of 8, favorite match, HuK?
Probably Hero Saxry, because I think it's the only matchup I watched like directly. Hero's a really cute kid, more personality wise. Saxry's a really nice kid too, actually, so they're both sweethearts.
Is it wrong to think that Saxry looks like a Korean Xenocider?
I don't know. I don't really see it personally, but whatever you're into. I mean, if you had a thing for Xenocider and now you want to move on to him, then that's fine. But
I guess they have similar glasses. That's all.
Yeah, I think Hero's builds, they're like really quick blinks.
Yeah.
He's been doing. I think the builds are really bad. I think Saxry should have wrecked him on Overgrowth, and he overextended so much. He should have never lost the game on Overgrowth, and he just like, I don't know, he derped really hard. But that's pretty much all I can say on the matchup. But the build he does, I watched it because he played Hyun, and I played Hyun in round of 8, and I watched him do it against Saxry very closely, and I was just like, this build doesn't seem good. When you do something that's so risky and so greedy, and then it's like a fucking struggle to make it to work, I'm just like not interested.
What does it tell?
It's like really quick blink. It's like you open normally with the Nexus, get gate, and then you're throwing down a Citadel like immediately, getting blink immediately, and then you're attacking with maybe 6 gates, mass stalker, blink, like no sentry, 3 or 4 gas. I want to say.
He delays he delays the assimilators in his natural quite a bit. Like he takes them late.
It's just like a really, really, really quick blink, but I think against any player that just is going to max Ling and Roach, it's not going to work.
You don't
Especially
even
if they
need
know it's coming.
roaches. You can
Yeah.
just max out on Lings and you just win.
I saw you play it, and you were talking about it on stream, in fact. I think on Overgrowth as well. And you said, like, as long as you just keep massing Lings and you know it's coming, you just don't stop making them, you shouldn't lose to this build. And I think the build's horrible. But he made it work because I think Saxry derped. But I was going to go up to Hero in between games and be like, don't do that build again, it sucks when he's winning it. So.
Yeah, okay. Are you that close that you would have done that? Or?
I just said I wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
Even
okay.
if I was close to him, I don't think I would do it. We're on friendly terms, I guess, but his English is horrible for one, and for two,
yeah.
I wouldn't do that to a player.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I think the build is trash. Who did he eventually end up losing to?
Solar. Yeah.
Did he end up doing the fucking build?
No,
Because that would
just,
make sense.
No, he just lost macro.
Okay.
What about you, Rotterdam? Favorite match of round of 8?
Yeah, I watched 3 out of 4. I didn't see the ZVZ between Jaedong and Sola yet, but yeah, Patience too. That was a disaster. That was absolutely ridiculous. 4GG MMA was okay, but you know, it didn't really have any drama. So I'll probably go with Hero Suckscree as well, from what I've seen. But I don't have too much to add to what the other guys said.
What the fuck was Patience doing? I remember those games now after you said how bad they were, and I was like,
What happened?
Yeah. I don't know. Fucking Patience. He was like, it looked like two different leagues. Like, I know Sue is insanely good, but it literally looked like Grandmaster and Diamond or something.
Yeah.
It was like
Patience
went Immortal all in at like 20 minutes, but he didn't have the units that you should have at 20 minutes.
Yeah, and the other game was on Merry Go Round, which is really was it on Foxtrot?
I think it was
It was on merry-go-round. It was on
Yeah.
merry-go-round.
Yeah, that was a disaster game where he lost all of his sentries on the left side of the map. But it was his other game as well that was really funny. And maybe it was Patience in the earlier stage of the tournament or something. But he went like up to Colossus on 2 bases and a bunch of sentries. Then he had a Stargate, and then he made another Stargate and a Fleet Beacon. But then he cancelled the Fleet Beacon and he made another Stargate. So he had like 5 really expensive production facilities as a 2-base Protoss. It's like, this really makes no sense.
Oh
at
yeah,
all.
versus Kane, that was really fucked up.
Merry-go-round, he went Stargate +1 air weapons. Phoenixes, and then like off 3 gate just kept making zealots, but then like could never attack, could never take a 3rd base, and then Zerg's like on 4 base, and they're like 180 supply when he had like 100 or something, and then like Patience just could never. It was just, I don't know. The builds don't make sense to me. I was just like, I don't know what he's trying to accomplish here. It doesn't make any sense.
It was really funny because like these small Zergling counters or like just Zergling plates, we normally just try to slow the Protoss down. We're actually killing like 8 or 9 sentries, and Sue must have been so confused as well. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, where's the real army or something? It started already off early on when it just like a couple of Zerglings killed the sentry that was on hold position. And that sentry died, and a bunch of Zerglings just ran into the main base. And I think we all know as a Protoss that really sucks when you have Zerglings in your base. And from that point on, it just went from bad to worse.
Yeah. You know, it's the beginning of the end when Zerglings get in. Like.
Yep.
Alright, so that's gonna pretty much wrap up Dreamhack. I mean, I assume everyone watched the semifinals and the finals, so those were our picks for round of 16 and round of 8. Solar ended up winning 3-0. We had the chance to hear Solar talk in English, and he's the best English out of... I mean, it sucks to say, like, wow, he's got better English than Polt, but he does. Like, you know, Polt has really good English, so I guess that's how... it sucks to compare them, but that's how good his English is if you didn't get to see it. He won $10,000, and he's not in the running for BlizzCon, but, you know, still really nice money for him. And,
but he did qualify as well, of course, for Dreamhack Winter, which was his initial goal of going there.
Yes.
I think that is very important to mention because Dreamhack Winter is going to be really huge later this year.
No, well, I mean, Dreamhack Winter for me is a huge letdown, and I'm going to explain to you for why in a second. Is because the Protoss lineup has only CJ Hero and like Stardust and like Sand. But then you have like MC First and Liquid Hero that have like no hopes, no dreams of them.
I don't agree with that.
Dude. You have Solar, Sue, True, Saskri, Lenok, Life, Impact, Jaedong, Innovation. Like you have so many like Koreans living in Korea versus Koreans not living in Korea. You still don't believe?
No, I see where you're going, but come on, you cannot say that as a Protoss player you're disappointed when you have both heroes there. You have Sun first, Stardust, and MC. Like, okay, obviously it would have been nice to see a freaking Rain or Zest over there, but that is still a really good lineup. You cannot say that it's a huge letdown. That's bullshit. It's a great lineup.
Alright, alright. I mean, it's opinions. I really like Kespa players. But at the end of the day, if they pull an upset or if they do really well results, I'll be a sucker and I'll watch the VODs anyway. So, but yeah, so Solar qualifying for the Dreamhack finals. And we're going to move on to our next topic, which is WCS Global final moves from BlizzCon to its own arena. Were you aware of this, Rotterdam?
No, actually, I just heard about it the other day as well. They've been very secretive about all these things, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, I guess, and curious, and I hope it's gonna be done well. It's a risky move, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was talking about it last night with HuK, and me and HuK usually when we try to discuss it doesn't always go well, and he was very he was a believer that I was wrong, saying that it might not be a good thing for like bringing.
No.
Okay,
Your argument was it's not going to be a good thing. Saying it might not be a good thing is taking away the liability. You either think it's going to be a good thing or you don't. But when you say it might not, it's not really what you were saying.
All right, so
from my perspective, it's like it's up to Blizzard how good it is. Like if they the obvious concern here, the biggest concern is that they won't have people there to fill it. And if they don't have people there, or it looks even half empty, half full, it's not going to look good, right? There has to be enough people there where they can pan to the audience and it looks nice, basically. Because if there's 10 people in the crowd and it's... Go ahead.
I mean, it shouldn't look nice. It should look epic. Like, this is the big final of the entire year. Like, there is no such thing as like, oh, this is acceptable or this looks okay. Like, no, like, it has to be fucking amazing. That's just the way it is. There's a lot of money going into this. The entire tournament ticket costs a fortune. All year long, all other tournaments are kind of overshadowed by this one big one. So I think it's safe to say that as Starcraft community, we're going to have to put the bar very high. And saying that like, it should look nice, like, no, it should look fucking mind-blowing. This should be the best thing that ever happened to us.
Well, yeah, the venue, the venue's gonna look really good regardless. But the all I'm worried about is the seats, and I think that's desRow's #1 concern too. But it's gonna be like if Blizzard promotes it really, really well. If they do like, can you imagine if they have like things they throw into the crowd, like free skins, free codes, free beta keys,
stickers,
shirts,
or the cards.
Whatever. If they have that stuff and they can, get people in the stadium, fill it up, make it a really good experience, get the crowd hyped, then it's going to be a great move. And if they can't do that and the crowd's halfway filled, it's going to be a great disappointment. So it's pretty much all up to Blizzard what it becomes.
I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of thought going into this, and I think you can expect something similar, maybe like a goodie bag or something like that. That's like people are a sucker for free stuff and are especially a sucker for goodies that are hard to obtain. So if there is something special that they get by going into that arena, I think it's safe to say that you're gonna almost fill it up already because people just love having exclusive cool Blizzard stuff, like if I, in an imaginary world, if I wouldn't be a big fan of StarCraft, let's say the StarCraft thing that is happening right now would have been a World of Warcraft thing. I wouldn't really care, but if I know that I could get a cool goodie bag while I'm at BlizzCon anyway, I'll probably go. And I would probably even watch, just for the fun of it. I think it will turn out alright. What I'm more curious about, and what I'm also excited about is, even though I enjoyed BlizzCon last year, I didn't like the stage setup all that much. It was like the same stage that they used in 2010 or something, and it's kind of looked outdated, and it didn't look like the stage that was presenting the biggest tournament of the year. Even though the catwalk thing was done really nice with the fence around it and the trophy looked amazing, just like the actual stage where the players were sitting on, it looked a little cheap and it looked a little outdated. So I really hope that we have a badass stage this year, something that looks like it's a 2014 Grand Tournament stage, and that it doesn't look like the same stage from before, because I would be disappointed if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. And just to talk, devil's advocate, their announcement is pretty late. If you only wanted to watch the games and you paid $200 for a BlizzCon ticket, well, you're shit out of luck because that ticket is now $25. So that's a huge price difference.
I don't really feel like if you're already buying a $250 ticket and you're going because StarCraft 2, I mean, it's shitty. I would definitely complain if I bought that ticket only to see StarCraft 2 and then I gotta buy an extra $25 ticket. But at the same time, I don't think that's gonna make or break anybody who wants to go watch.
Yeah, I know. I'm just devil's advocate, man.
Isn't it like, because I saw Dane tweet at StarCraft 2 because he bought a ticket, like one of the best tickets, for $700 or $750 or something. I don't know if he bought it from someone else or something, maybe, because he didn't have a ticket. But regardless, when he tweeted at StarCraft 2, when they did this announcement, they said that that was included in that he could go to the stadium.
Oh,
just
yes. So basically, the way it works is the ground floor in front of like the action or whatever, like in front of the booth and stuff, is reserved for people with BlizzCon tickets, and then the $25 ticket is like balcony, and like you go up and up.
So if you have a BlizzCon ticket, you can go in there anyway
for free.
Yeah,
yes.
and you have
so then, what are you
seats.
talking about?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Well, if you
I love that
only wanted if you only wanted to watch the games.
But if you only wanted to watch the games regardless, before this announcement, you would have needed a BlizzCon pass anyways. So now, if you want to watch it and you couldn't afford the BlizzCon one, you can actually go now for $25 and just watch that.
Yes.
So that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Because you made it sound like a bad thing, like they bought a BlizzCon ticket, they got fucked over, and they can't watch. And they gotta buy another pass.
They're out of money if all they wanted to watch was BlizzCon.
Okay, so that's what's point is that there are people who literally only bought access to BlizzCon to only sit in the SC2 chair and watch the SC2 tournament, and now 2 months later or 3 months later they realize that they could have done just that exact thing, only that for a lot less money. But
I see.
Yeah, there's a small point. There's a small argument in that, but BlizzCon is more like a celebration of like the entire Blizzard, you know, how do you say that, universe and all the different games. So I think there are very, very few people who say, hey, I only come here for this tournament, and other than that, I don't give a shit what else you do. Who does that? Like, BlizzCon is awesome. And I think, you know, if you're a fan of StarCraft, even if you're just a fan of esports, a fan of Blizzard, and there's so much stuff to do that I think there would have been very few people who are now like, man, I could have saved myself some money by not going to BlizzCon and only watching SC2 there.
No, I'm just doing devil's advocate. I know there was a few people complaining on Reddit, but that was mostly a few people. And now, you know, with WCS doing it in an arena, there's also talks of BlizzCon, and our next topic is Legacy of the Void, which, I mean, it should be announced. Like, it kind of makes sense if you look at the sky at night, the stars align, and then you know Legacy of the Void is going to be announced. And there's been a topic this week, the Marine making, you know, there's a Korean show called Starhang. It's actually pretty good. I've watched it. It was talking about, when I watched it, it was players older than 26, 28, and how they can transition and everything. And but this time they were talking about Micro and StarCraft 2, and basically what the Marine was saying was he wants more units like the Blink Stalker, so we can have more exciting games that, you know, are a little bit similar to MOBAs. You know, MOBAs have a lot of micro, have a lot of action, and then when you look at StarCraft 2, it's mostly like dead balls, and it's not something like so, sure it takes mechanics, but, you know, someone that's really good at Blink versus someone that's not good at Blink, the guy really good at Blink is going to win. And so he basically wants more units that can have awesome micro like that. And
I just wanna stop you right there.
But that's what he was saying, man. I mean,
I know that's what he said. I'm not gonna rip your head off. I just think it's kind of short-sighted the way that works. Not all units need to have 4 abilities. Protoss is hard enough to micro. If people want to have that MOBA experience in every unit, they should just play Protoss. No. I got his point. Let me talk. I think, like, that doesn't make or break the game, in my opinion. When that thread went up and the comments went up, there was a lot of examples of really cool, fun micro that were not including Blink Stalkers. In fact, if you ask most people, especially when the maps were all Protoss all-in favored, people would probably say Blink is not the most exciting thing in the world. They'd probably say Blink was pretty shitty whenever they saw a Protoss player blink in, blink out, and win the game by just blinking away. I don't think people get excited over Blink. People get excited over, like, really cool engagements. If Blizzard was going to do anything that would totally drastically take the game and turn it upside down, they would have to change the way the economy works. and they would have to change the way unit pathing works. But I don't think either of those things are going to be changed. It would basically be making the whole engine over again, and I don't know. I think the comment's kind of bullshit.
Okay.
To be honest.
Okay,
And I like the Marine. We're definitely friends, but.
I mean, like, there's also, like, you know, whenever, like, a Terran will pick up Marauders, so they dodge the shots.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things to micro in Starcraft.
Like, in that thread, there was a lot of really cool little gifs that showed that kind of shit, and saying we need more things like Blink Stalkers, kind of, it's just very narrow-minded and not good.
Mm-hmm. And, Kane, like, what do you think of what the Marine said about StarCraft and needing more micro? Basically, as your race is, like, one of the most A-move in the game.
Well, actually, that's the reason I started playing Zerg. No, I'm not even kidding. But no, there's a lot of discussions about, like, the micro and all of that stuff. And honestly, I've never been able to relate to any of that stuff because I really enjoy StarCraft as a game, and I think that in where we are at right now, the better player usually wins. So, you know, a lot of people can make suggestions on how to make the game more fun for spectators and observers and stuff like that. But I never played Brood War, I never played any other RTS, so I'm kind of biased, I guess, and I just like where StarCraft is at and where it's going. I mean, that's just me, and I know that it's not a very commonly shared opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I just enjoy StarCraft, and I enjoy what we have right now, and I'm happy, and I enjoy the game. So, that's that.
What about you, Rotterdam, as a dirty Protoss?
I also disagree. I don't think that Blink Stalkers are the most exciting unit in the game, and above all, I think what people want to see, and I do think that that is something that can be improved, is just more action around the map. Like, I do agree that, like, sitting back and building up a strong army or just throwing down a bunch of cannons, like, that's not really how the game should be played. So it's more like a map issue, and I just hope that, like, Legacy of the Void gives us more options. You know, there is one thing that I've always disagreed with from Blizzard's point of view, and it's okay for me to say that, I hope they won't get angry at me, but, like, they don't like it when they put units in the game that won't really be used very often. I disagree with that. For my part, you put as many units in the game, because there will always be some crazy player out there who finds some use for a unit in a certain phase in the game, and I just wish we had more options, and I would like to just see as many units as possible. And I think above all, StarCraft 2 has always been, like, or at least like, I was not a Brood War player. I came into StarCraft 2 by playing only Warcraft 3 and before that Red Alert and stuff. And StarCraft 2 was the game for me with where, at least the way I had it in my mind, and that's how Zoka and stuff explained it to me back then. It's just like, you just throw units at certain locations and you try to overrun your opponent. You try to be steady at places, but there's just like a lot of action around the map, and you just, it's not so much about like trying to save every unit, it's about like just overrunning your opponent, and like that's the whole idea of Zerg. And even Protoss with weapons and stuff can be very cool, because I think over the last few months we have seen so many sick Protoss games where you have Protoss players with 2 warp prisons with speed active, just warp in, and the main army is not 160 supply anymore, it's only like 100 army because they are resting so much. I think that's what makes StarCraft 2 exciting, and I don't think that like walking around with a group of Blink Stalkers and then just blinking units back, I don't think that that makes the game very exciting. So yeah, I kind of disagree, and I think there are different ways to make the game exciting.
But I think I quoted I really quoted the Marine wrong, and a lot of people are going to be angry. No, hold on. I quoted the end of his argument, and I just remembered now, and people are going to hate me. So my point is, or what the Marine point was, before Flash started playing, it was a lot of Ghosts, you know, TVZ, maxed out on Ghosts. After that it was Broodlord and Fester, now it's Swarmos. It's always, and now with Protoss, it's like, okay, you'll start with an Oracle, you'll start with whatever, and to 3 base and get to 200. So you were talking about that, but what I'm trying to get at here is, do we need like a different, is it possible that with a few units added, we can get to a point, just like Rotterdam was saying, where there's enough harass on the map that it's action-packed all game long, with just adding a few units, just like Art of the Swarm. Can Legacy of the Void do that, or we really have to change everything, like how much money you get, and so on, to fix the game, to make it more exciting?
I think everybody knew what you were talking about, and I saw the show. And
Well, I didn't mention it for
his
the
full
audience.
comments.
Yeah, but I didn't mention it for the audience.
Well, it doesn't change his point about Blink Stalkers at all, regardless.
Yes. So he's
But-
saying that Blink Stalkers
Yep,
like make things
we know.
action-packed. All right. All right.
They don't make them action packed though. That's the
But
whole point.
no, but like PVT is boring. No, okay. So you open one game, one robo.
Yeah, but-
you go 3 gate, you go double forge, you go Colossus, 10-minute pass. Fucking, there was a Reaper that died. Okay, a Reaper died.
Yeah, but
nice.
what is that-
10
what
minutes
is that-
later, then there's a fight.
That's
Okay,
the
but
most,
this is-
that's the most, for one, that's the most standard play that there is.
Yeah,
You're
but that
leaving
does
out
where's the
but-
action?
No, but just listen and stop
Okay.
talking for a little bit. You leave out the fact that there's Widow Mine drops, Hellion
Yes.
run bys, Medevac drops, the 8-minute bio push, the Proxy Oracle, the Immortal all in, the Blink Stalker all in. So you're using the most standard, most boring opening versus the most standard, most boring opening, but that's not 100% of the games, and that's okay. What I miss, and what Rotterdam kind of mentioned a little bit, is I miss the times when there's a lot of small skirmishes on the maps. And then there's one drop here, there's another drop here, Protoss is counter-warping in Zealots, and at the same time both big armies are posturing and doing that kind of stuff. That's what's really exciting for me, when there's a lot of multitasking, there's a lot of fronts, there's more strategical play based on maps and the way you can set that up. And I felt like that's where it was when there was a lot of Zealot High Templar play going on versus Terran specifically. There's a lot of cannons, let's place High Templars here, Terran's going to do small pokes here and there. That's what's really exciting. And if I saw Blizzard moving the game anywhere in particular where I want them to move it, is that's a lot of small skirmishes, a lot of just a lot of fights in a lot of places, and where it's easy for people to defend and attack at the same time with a small amount of units. And I feel like when Blizzard tries to do that, they like, okay, we're going to add the Oracle and hopefully that does it. But it doesn't end up happening. And then they're like, okay, we're going to give Medevacs speed boost and hopefully that helps. But that doesn't really help either. It's based on unit relationship with other units and what units are added and what they do. But I guess we'll see soon what Legacy of the Void has to offer. But as far as like Blizzard adding a whole nother economy based.
So which okay, so you want a lot of multitasking, you want a lot of fronts where there's a lot of battles. Which way would you fix it? Change the economy, or do you think
the
there's
economy
units?
won't be changed?
Okay,
the economy won't be changed.
No, but
And
like in a dream world where you're fucking
Why?
David Kim. You're
But
distant
it-
brother, you're
it
bald
doesn't
right
matter.
now.
No, it doesn't. Even if I'm David Ken, it won't. They would have to remake a whole game. That's not what you're getting. It will not happen. Period. So there's no point in talking about it.
No dreams, alright. So what kind of units? Anything that can split the big
Well,
dead ball?
Like I was saying, it's not even necessarily. You can't just say this unit that does this thing. It's about unit relationships and where the strategy ends up being. Like, you wouldn't necessarily say, I'm going to add the High Templar or I'm going to add the Zealot in PvT and this is going to make the game this way. But that's where the meta ended up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually in PvT. And then when they buffed the Widow Mine, that kind of died to some degree. So they have to have really good unit relationships to make that happen. And I'm not saying they need to bring back Zealot High Templar, but that's for them as game designers to figure out.
Okay. What about you, Rotterdam? Change the economy, add units, change the relationship of units.
Yeah, I really want to see additional units. I want to see units with cool abilities, and you know, like I said before, for my part, they add a bunch of units that won't be popular for a while, and at a certain point, units will be popular. Like when the Swarmos was added, nobody was using it at start because everybody thought it was a really stupid unit, and then suddenly people find a use. I just wish that we had more options, because more options means more variety. Also means, you know, that certain streamers can do funny things, and it just makes the game overall more fun. I don't think it's a disaster if there is a certain unit that's not being used very often. Like, look at the carrier now, we rarely see it, but it's still nice to have it in the game, because once in a blue moon we do see it, and people like going crazy over that kind of stuff. So I just think it's, you know, like, you have to think well about the units that you add and stuff. I do agree with, by the way, like, you went on this little PvT rant, and I feel you, desRow. Like, PvT is also not a matchup that I particularly enjoy right now, at least in a certain stage in the game. But that's a tragedy, because before the recent Widowmine buff, it was a freaking exciting matchup. It was when people were opening up with High Templar Char slot. There were so many ways that Protoss could play it. You know, you could put pressure on the Terran, you could just go up to 3 bases, but opening up from Templars and Zealot just made the game so much more fun than opening up with this 6 supply unit called the Colossus that you just kind of like, you kind of have to sit there. So that is something that's very recent, and I don't think that that is something that's going to be like that forever. But I do feel you on that regard. I also don't enjoy the Reaper Scout into 10 minutes, 30 seconds. Alright, stim bio, let's finally get some action going.
Okay, and would you like to see maps change? Like going forward, what kind of maps?
I would like to see a little bit crazy stuff. I would like to see map makers be a little bit more adventurous. And I know that sometimes, you know, when you do crazy things with maps, it might not always be the best thing for the pro player because it makes things a little bit of random. But, you know, if we just move away from best of 3s and we play more best of 5s, I think having some crazy elements in maps can be very exciting and will still most likely make the best player win 99% of the time. But it can also bring the game so much more variance. So, you know, I like to think out of the box. I like to think a little crazy, and I understand if you're playing for $10,000, like the last thing you want to have is some random element on the map. But I still think it can be very good for the game, if not just for ladder.
I remember back in Art of the Storm beta, you had when the Oracle was blocking the patches, and you were storm dropping at the same time. Fucking Rotterdam, the pioneer.
That was me, man. Yeah. Hero was copying that shit a week later. He's like, damn, that brother is smart.
What about you, Kane? Would you want? Do you think it's the economy that needs to be changed? It needs to be more like Brood War. You didn't play Brood War, but what kind of units do you want? How many units would you say you want per race?
I mean, that's kind of an impossible question to answer a little.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and this is going off on a tangent a little, but I think to make the game fun to watch for spectators, I think it's really important to have good casters and good observers who really know what's going on. Like when you have a Swarm Host game, for example, like a Turtle Swarm Host game, there's so many little things that are going on, but when you get casters who don't really know a lot about the late game or a lot about what's going on, you'll have them. It'll be kind of boring for the spectator because it'll just look like one army's attacking the other over and over and over. When in reality, there's like 100 little different things that the Zerg has to do that the Protoss has to do. So I think to make the game more fun, it's kind of in an indirect way, but just get like really good casters and really good observers who really know what they're talking about. I would also like to see a lot more small skirmishes around the map. What else? I think that, yeah, I mean, it's a really hard question to ask, like, what units you want to see. Just units that allow you to really multitask and allow you to kind of outplay your opponents, you know?
And there's a few more topics. So Rotterdam was saying, like, I'm okay with the carrier, you know, that we see it every once in a while. HuK, what are your thoughts on units that become obsolete for a while? Like the carrier, like the... I guess Banshee and other matchups, or
so. What like, you're asking me?
Like,
what
is it okay for Blizzard to have units that are barely used, or should they make a conscious effort to try to add them into the game by like doing minor buffs? Make them popular again, a bit like the Widowmine, you know?
It's one thing. I think it's one thing to say like carriers aren't used. But it's more like a cocky move at this point. I can't think of hardly any situations where I would pick the carrier over a Void Ray or the Tempest. It just doesn't fill the role. Every unit does what it does better, cheaper, faster. So like I don't mind having units that are rarely used. Like the BC is definitely one of those units. Making a lot of Ravens is definitely one of those units. Brood Lords at this point, I think, are definitely one of those units. We hardly see them as much as we used to, definitely. But it has to have some kind of application, and I don't feel like something like the carrier does. I think the Banshee still does, especially in TVZ. I think it's very applicable. But it really depends. They're obviously going to introduce some new units at Legacy of the Void, and I think it'd be fair to say that there's probably going to be some version of Legacy of the Void to play at BlizzCon, so we'll probably know what those units are shortly anyway, so there's no real need to argue about that. They'll be coming out anyways. But, yeah, I don't know. They just, like Roddy said and Kane said, there needs to be a lot of new maps. They got to mix it up. And
no, but so okay, so if we take a look at League of Legends and Dota, or maybe not League of Legends, but Dota at least, they have like every like maybe 6 months or whatever, they have like an insane patch, and they buff like all the motherfuckers that you never see, so that you see people use them. So if we look at the capital ships of Starcraft, the Broodlord, the Carrier, the Battlecruiser, do we nerf them to make them like cheaper, but they're like less strong, but we see more of them? Like, should there be more? Like, they should be more in the games. Like, I fucking played Protoss because as a kid, the fucking Carrier was badass. I'm like, hey man, he's got 8 little ships. It's like a family, and then you go around and you kill shit.
Yeah, this is a common mistake I think a lot of people make. Balancing an RTS with 3 different races where people are going to literally probably play only one race and they're going to be extremely biased compared to balancing a MOBA where everybody plays, like, for example, if you want to talk LoL or Dota or whatever, play like Pudge or play Ahri or play Twisted Fate or anything. Like, the thing about MOBAs is those characters can be banned, they can be picked, multiple people play them. It isn't like you play Ahri and LoL, and that's all you play for the next 4 years. So balancing the game and saying Ahri's not strong enough, make her stronger, or Ahri's too strong, nerf her, is far different than balancing an RTS where there's extremely biased people on all 3 sides, and there's very different relationships between that balancing than there are in MOBAs, where they can go more crazy. As far as whether they should make units cheaper or shorter or whatever, I mean, I personally think that making the Carrier build time a lot shorter would almost be enough that we would see it more often. But I'm not a game designer, so I can't really say. I think we'll see soon just by what new units they introduce or what units they're planning on taking out.
Okay.
I like what you said there, desRow. Indeed, like the patches in MOBA are extremely drastic and completely change the way that the games are being played. I also like what HuK said, like just because, you know, one hero gets buffed or nerfed, that doesn't really have a massive impact on the game because you can just ban that hero or you can start picking it again. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Well, in Starcraft 2, all the heroes have a close relationship with each other, so if you buff one, that will have a big impact on the entire game and on all the matchups that races involved. However, I do agree that, you know, in StarCraft 2, I think we're too careful, we're too cautious about messing things up, and it always has to be perfect. But take a look at the Broodlord. Like, the Broodlord was, yeah, overpowered as fuck against Protoss in Wings of Liberty. I think we can all agree upon that. But it doesn't make it okay for it to be completely useless again in Heart of the Swarm. Or, you know, maybe there's like a 45-second timing window where the Broodlord is suddenly good against Protoss, and you need to win the game right here, right now. Otherwise, it's useless again because there are 3 Tempests out that will one-shot it. Like, that kind of stuff saddens me a little bit, and I wish that we would be a little bit more adventurous and, you know, just try to switch it up. And what if we make a change that the Broodlord will be a little bit too strong again? So be it.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it comes to the balance designer to decide what they want to do, but I have one last topic, and it was earlier, Rotterdam, when you said, I don't like when the players are turtling. And then it made me think of Mech and a certain Terran streamer that would probably hate us right now. But so back in Brood War, Mech was maybe HuK, you can call me out if I'm wrong. Back in Brood War, Mech was to, you know, you put a lot of pressure with the vultures, and you were like you were doing siege pushes. Nowadays, like with Mech, unless like in TVP at least, unless you're doing like some 2-base or 3-base timing, you're just fucking thirdling till the end of times. So if we were to, Rotterdam, I wanted to ask you, if we were to add mech units, would you want something aggressive that would sort of break the need to turtle so much?
In all honesty, I think I'm the wrong person to ask this question because I have never been a big fan of mech. Once again, I don't have a Brood War past. I spent some time in Korea during Warcraft 3 times, and I watched a little bit, and it looked fine. But as a Starcraft 2 player, I've never enjoyed playing against mech. I kind of hate it. I have no patience for it. To watch it, there are games where I enjoy it. There are games that don't enjoy it, but to ask me what should happen to Mac, I don't think I'm in the position to answer that properly because I have a lack of brute war pass. So you should ask somebody else.
What about you, Chris?
It's just like a completely different game. I mean, mech just isn't a thing in StarCraft 2 for the most part, and mech was the like 99% of the games you would play TVP would be mech. So it's just a completely different game. There's nothing really to comment on it unless they did some really big changes to the mech units in StarCraft 2. It won't become a thing. I don't know. Like the closest thing to mech I would say was like these small little bio pushes that Terrans do now versus Protoss, and then they have like 1 or 2 tanks to like pick off your gas or something. But the game is just completely different to Brood War in so many ways, and the units are so different, and the matchups are so different. It's not really the same thing. I don't know. It's just not comparable in my mind.
Okay. Any thoughts on mech, Kane, before we move on?
Yeah, so I can't speak TVP, but TVC. I think map issue more than anything. These maps where you can split it perfectly and just turtle for the whole game, like for hours, it's not really fun to watch. But you get maps like Merry-Go-Round and other non-split maps, and you can play mech on them, but like Chris said, you have to do like timings and stuff like that, like 2 or 3 base timings. So those can be like really fun to watch, and I think that's a style of mech that's fun to play, or fun to play against, or fun to watch, whatever. But I think when you get in those turtle scenarios where it lasts like an hour or two, similar to Swarm Host, it can be pretty boring to watch for players and spectators alike.
Okay. Alright, well that wraps up our Legacy of the Void talk. BlizzCon is literally in a month and a week, or a month and a half, a week, something like that.
The pre-show starts in a month from now, correct?
Oh yes, yes. The pre-show starts in a month from now at the Burbank studio. If you want a hug from Rotterdam.
How do you guys feel about that? I want to hear your opinions about that.
Oh, so last year was fucking dumb because some of the matches weren't casted, and so this year everything gets casted. Now, if you're a player and you don't play in the arena, that must suck for you and your sponsor and your dreams. But I think it's okay. And then they said they will bring those players in a way to play exhibition matches at BlizzCon, which is probably going to be Legacy of the Void. But I think it's okay. What do you think, Kane?
Can you repeat that question one more time?
So you know how BlizzCon, it's a round of 16 is played a weekend before, so you only have the round of 8 left, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
And what are you asking me about it?
Oh, your thoughts as a player.
I mean, it kind of depends. Like, if you have really good momentum in the round of 16 and you're feeling really good about your play, it kind of sucks to have to wait a week to play again.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, it kind of just comes down to player preference, to be honest. I don't have one way or the other thoughts about it. It's just what it is.
Okay.
What about you, Chris?
I think it's the best solution to a shitty situation. Obviously, everybody would like all the games to be played at BlizzCon, but physically that's just not possible for how long BlizzCon is and how much they have going on. So it's either you get the option of missing a bunch of games, or you get the option of seeing all the games, but the round of 16 is played a week earlier. And I think I would much rather see all the games than miss out. So,
you know, one of the reasons like I like it for obviously that reason that we are able to watch all of the games. And last year, even though I was at the event, I couldn't watch it. But why I like it even more, and that's perhaps, you know, because I've been in broadcasting so long, I think this gives the company who is going to broadcast it, which I assume is going to be ESL Europe, it gives them a lot of opportunity to really spotlight the players that are going to make it in the top 8. Now you have a week to prepare a lot of really cool pieces, a lot of badass interviews, a lot of awesome camera footage that you can then show at BlizzCon to make it a lot more extra special than just analysis desk, game, you know, maybe highlight reel at the end of the day. But no, now you have a week to prepare for 8 players who will all be on location already. So you can do so much freaking cool stuff with them, and you can really make it like the most badass show ever. And I think this is something that's extremely important because, you know, if we look at Dreamhack last weekend, it was just another good Dreamhack event. And it sounds a little mean to say that, but I think it's safe to say that Dreamhack got a little bit lazy with some of their StarCraft 2 events. It's still a really good show, and I still love watching it, and I'm so happy that we have it. But they didn't do anything new, and they don't really have any side content. It's literally like casters in-game. Let's throw it to Smix, who's in the area, and see if he can get an interview. And then we play a bunch of commercials, and we take it from there again. And I would be very sad if BlizzCon is going to be like that. Now we have a week, and in that week I really expect a lot of awesome things to be produced. So that's why I'm most excited about it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and it's great for those players, you know. You battle all year, and you get a lot of exposure out of being the final 8. And we'll get the Finds hype. Hopefully Snoot can make it, or HuK, or Scarlet, depending on WCS and A results. We'll have to see about that. So that wraps up Legacy of the Void talk. When we come back from a small break, we're going to have WEG, WCS, your questions, and GSL predictions. I just want to do a little sellout plug. So this mouse pad right here, signed at IEM by Zest and a bunch of players. If we get 1,500 viewers, I'll be giving away to one of you guys. So call your grandma, call your cousins, call your grandkids, do everything. We'll be back in 3 minutes with more Remax. Stay tuned.